And I'm just gonna face it head on. I don't touch this stuff. I've never done this stuff. I'm not gonna do this stuff.
What stuff? You've never taken steroids?
Never taken steroids. I've never done PEDs other than prioritize, execute, and dominate in life.
What an odd thing to say.
Steroids.
Steroids. I wouldn't take a steroid if you'd give me $10 trillion.
No way.
Absolutely. Look at how many people, especially in my profession, some of these bodybuilders, some of them have died and they end up in the hospitals taking these steroids. You start fooling around with Mother Nature. You start taking all these supplements, all these artificial things that's going to get you.
The weightlifter, a lot of them do it.
But you know why? Athletes. Because the only thing they think, a lot of these people know it's going to take years off their life, but if they can break a world's record, I've talked to them, say, I don't care about that. I just want to break this record, and they don't care how they do it.
This is Jack LaLanne, one of the first human beings in documented history to really push the bounds of physical fitness.
At age 70, handcuffed and shackled, fighting strong currents towards 70 boats with 70 people from Queensway Bridge, he towed them to the Queen Mary, 1.5 miles.
Handcuffed and shackled.
You're crazy.
I am.
Jack seemed to be more myth than man, but he very much was the real deal, and he showed countless millions what could be possible when it came to the capabilities of the human body. Jack set the scene for what would become the fitness industry as we know it, and he remained perhaps the most incredible physical specimen to ever live. And he did it all naturally. As a part of being healthy, a person must also strive to be physically fit. You cannot have health without fitness. But to be fit is a relatively simple equation that involves consistency with physical exercise in varying degrees. Whether the average person, an elite athlete, or someone who falls in the middle of that spectrum, there is a wide array of fitness practices that can make life far more fulfilling. To push ourselves within our means and demonstrate what our bodies can accomplish in our living years. But what if our bodies are not enough? What if we could achieve more without relying solely on our natural body? What if science could help us achieve what Jack LaLanne did with far less time and effort? A performance-enhancing drug is exactly what the name suggests. It is a drug that enhances performance. But it does this with a cost, as those who utilize performance-enhancing drugs can expect a host of potentially life-threatening side effects. Perhaps the most well-known of the PED family, anabolic steroids, were first synthesized in the 1930s by German scientist Adolf Butenandt and his team. The inception of anabolic steroids, or exogenous testosterone, was not actually in a fitness context, but instead in service of treating hypogonadism, or the body's lack of ability to produce sex hormones. Butenandt would go on to win a Nobel Prize for his discoveries, but it of course would not be long before humanity would seek to utilize these discoveries for more deceitful purposes. Certain reports suggest that these compounds were utilized by the Nazis to make their soldiers more optimal in carrying out their duties. It has even been said that Adolf Hitler himself demonstrated classic side effects of steroid use, including extreme anger and violent tendencies, as well as depression and suicidal behaviors.
Ich war eher von der Akademie.
But if steroids could be used to create super soldiers, why not super athletes? This was certainly a question pondered by the Soviet Union, as they were amongst the first to put steroids in a fitness context. Starting in the 1950s, Russia would dominate athletics in part due to undisclosed steroid use, which would later be disclosed to US weightlifting physician John Ziegler, who would then go on to help craft Dianabol, the first anabolic steroid to be used on a mass scale by athletes. Though not necessarily intended for athletes, the use of steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs would snowball from then on out. And as it snowballed, certain laws would come into play to denounce and discourage PED use. But with little avail, as there are many ways to cheat the system.
The whole "it's drug tested" is complete bullshit. NFL football is drug tested. The Olympics are drug tested. And yet, nearly every competitor uses it. These professional athletes are not natty. Why aren't they? Because the people that watch on TV do not want them to be natty. We want new records set every year, or we stop watching. It's our own fault that these people are using steroids.
steroids are taken 8 or 9, 10 weeks before competition. It's not a healthy thing to do, but it's being used.
Did you take them?
I took them, yeah, up until the competition.
Of course, PEDs would prove to be very popular in the bodybuilding community, but it is even proven to be very popular with athletes across the board, as well as even amongst the average person just trying to look their best.
It's a big problem, especially because most people taking steroids, drugs, they don't actually need them, right? Like they're just using them to get like kind of a decent physique, like that they actually could get naturally if they actually put in the work. And so for a lot of people, it's a shortcut.
So obviously, you know, steroids work. People know that. This is what we see, but it's just interesting to actually break down a clinical study that shows guys sitting on their ass doing fucking nothing and taking gear versus guys who are actually in the gym training, trying to make gains, taking no gear, and we see some comparable outcomes between the two.
So why are so many willing to cheat to improve?
Steroids aren't drugs. They occur naturally in the body, like sweat or tumors.
But aren't there side effects?
Yes, their main side effect is greatness. But if you'd rather be weak and helpless...
No.
And why are they also so willing to accept the side effects?
I feel good, with no repercussions.
When I claim that steroids ruined fitness, it is in large part because the very notion of enhancing the body in service of an ideal, despite the consequences, seems like a bastardization of health. And, as mentioned, you cannot have health without fitness, and vice versa. Put simply, ego and vanity win over genuine improvement and healthful habits. And this is now what the fitness industry seems to promote above all else. And next to PEDs, let's not forget to mention their ugly cousins, Photoshop and muscle implants. But anyway.
From a couple of people that put out videos about steroids and stuff. Now understand that they're just saying that I do steroids, and that's their interpretation of it. They can say whatever they want to say. What they're not saying, and I guarantee if they see this.
We now live in a day and age where anyone could be using some sort of unnatural exogenous enhancement. Some lie while others are honest.
I'm not a natural bodybuilder, and I have a major problem with other influencers that are not as transparent about it.
But even honesty surrounding PED use can encourage its misuse. The prominence of these drugs, of course, fosters unrealistic expectations, dangerous habits, and a flat-out perversion of what true fitness is. It is disheartening to consider that someone on PEDs may have a better chance of thriving in the fitness industry over someone who chose to stay natural. Education is important.
And as for drugs, well, drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs. Okay, that about wraps up my introduction. Now, are there any questions?
But the vast majority should probably not be considering using any anabolic steroid, SARM, growth hormone, or any other potentially destructive substances in this group of drugs. There are circumstances where you may want to ask your doctor.
Hi, everybody!
But I'm sure this sentiment will be shared in most cases. I want to make it clear that this essay was not meant to scorn anyone who has ever used a PED.
How freaking dare you!
There is far more nuance there. But still, as a lover of health and fitness, as well as someone with a distaste for hypocrisy, I want to continue to encourage that we stay natural on our pursuit for physical betterment. There is so much we can do with the body that we were born with. Just look to Jack LaLanne. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd also love to hear more of your specific thoughts down in the comment section below. Wishing you all health and happiness.
Drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs. If you do them, you're bad. Because drugs are bad, okay? It's a bad thing to do drugs, so don't be bad by doing drugs, okay? That'd be bad. Drugs are bad, okay?